Alien Emperor gifts a concubine in a box to a human, unbox me. The Great Hall of the Aurelian Empire was built to make visitors feel small. Its ceiling curved high above like the inside of a massive shell, layered with glowing symbols that recorded the victories of emperors long dead. Alien nobles filled the tiered balconies, their many eyes focused on the center platform where history was about to be made. Ilia's ward stood among them, human, quiet, and very aware of how alone he was. He was not a general. He was not a hero. He was a trade envoy, chosen because he listened more than he spoke, and because he never reached for power unless it was forced into his hands. Humanity had learned, painfully, that survival among the stars often depended on restraint. The alien emperor descended the steps of the throne, tall and radiant in layered ceremonial armor. His species valued ritual above all things. Every movement was slow, deliberate, and heavy with meaning. "Human Ilia's ward," the emperor announced, his voice amplified by the hall itself. "Representative of Earth and its scattered colonies." He had practiced the gesture for weeks, knowing that even the smallest mistake here could echo across worlds. "You stand before us at the end of negotiations," the emperor continued. "Trade routes will open, borders will hold. Bloodshed will pause. In our culture," the emperor said, "peace is sealed not by words alone, but by gift." It was about the size of a large coffin made of dark alloy etched with faintly glowing runes. The air around it felt cold, wrong, as if the box itself did not belong in open space. Ilia's stomach tightened. The box was placed gently at his feet. "This," the emperor said, "is a concubine of loyalty, trained, bound, and sworn, a living symbol of our trust, a reminder that your fate and ours now move together." He could feel the eyes of the human delegation behind him, rigid with tension. No one had warned them of this. No briefing had prepared him for a moment like this. "To accept," the emperor said, "is to be honored. To refuse is to insult." Ilias inhaled slowly. He had learned long ago that panic was a luxury. He knelt not before the emperor but beside the box. He placed his hand on its surface. It was cold, and beneath that cold he thought he felt a faint vibration like a heartbeat. "I accept the gift," Ilias said carefully, "in the name of peace." The ceremony continued around Ilias, but his attention never left the container. Something inside it shifted, almost too subtly to notice. When the formalities ended, the human delegation was escorted from the hall. No one spoke until they were alone in the transit corridor, the walls humming softly as gravity adjusted. "What was that?" one of the officers hissed. Ilias shook his head. "Later, not here." Every few steps, Ilias glanced at it, feeling a growing weight in his chest that had nothing to do with diplomacy. They reached the human quarters, a sealed section of the station granted under treaty law. The door closed behind them, and for the first time since the ceremony, the silence broke. "That thing is a person," someone said. Ilias nodded. "I know." "Not what they think it means." Up close, he could see fine seams along the edges, locks designed to respond to imperial biosignatures. The technology was advanced, elegant, and deeply unsettling. He raised his hand again. Before he touched it, a sound came from inside. Soft. Almost lost beneath the hum of the station. "Unbox me." "Can you hear me? Do you know why you're here?" He turned to the console and activated a secure channel to Earth Command. The delay would be long, but he could not wait for answers before acting. He returned to the box. "I am not opening you yet," he said gently. The reaction was immediate. The faint vibrations inside the container became erratic. "That is unexpected," the voice said. "Have I failed?" "It means I belong to you," the voice said. Ilias closed his eyes. He had seen slavery in many forms across the galaxy. Chains, contracts, debts passed down generations. This was different. This was ownership wrapped in ceremony and called honor. He placed his palm flat against the box again. "My name is Ilias," he said. "What is yours?" "Not by law." Outside, the station continued its routines, unaware that something fragile and dangerous was unfolding in a quiet room. Ilias sat near the box, speaking when he could, listening when Salith answered. He learned that she had never seen the stars directly, that her life had been measured in lessons and obedience drills, that the box was not a prison in her mind but a transition. When Earth Command finally responded, the message was brief and strained. "Proceed with caution. Do not escalate. We are analyzing cultural implications." Elias muted the channel. At some point, Salith spoke again. "You are not like the others." "Salith," he said, "when this box opens, nothing will happen unless you choose it." "For the first time," she said quietly, "I do not know what to expect." Inside the box, something far more dangerous than war was beginning. Choice. The station's artificial night cycle dimmed the lights in the human quarters, but Elias Ward did not sleep. He sat in a chair a few steps away from the sealed box, his posture calm, his thoughts anything but. The container rested in the center of the room, quiet now, its faint hum steady and controlled. Inside, Salith waited. She had been trained to endure silence. Waiting was something she understood well, yet this waiting felt different. There were no commands echoing in her mind, no countdowns, no threat of punishment tied to time, only uncertainty. Elias broke the silence first. "Are you still awake?" he asked. "Yes," Salith replied almost immediately. "I do not sleep unless instructed." Elias frowned slightly. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "You can rest if you want. Nothing bad will happen." There was a pause. "I am unable to confirm that." "That makes sense," Elias said softly. "You don't know me yet." "No," she agreed. "I do not." Minutes passed. Elias resisted the urge to pace. He had learned that stillness often said more than movement. The box was not just a container. It was a symbol, and symbols were dangerous when handled carelessly. "Salith," he said again, "can you tell me what happens after someone opens the box?" Her answer came slowly, as if each word had to pass through layers of filters. "I kneel. I speak the vow, I accept my role, my obedience seal activates fully. And if someone doesn't open it, then I remain contained until transfer, termination, or reassignment." Elias' jaw tightened. "Termination? Yes." The word was delivered with the same tone as the others. Neutral, learned, Elias stood and walked to the viewport. Beyond it, stars drifted by in silence. Entire civilizations lived and died under laws like this, wrapped in polite language. "You were called a gift," he said. "Did anyone ever ask if you wanted to be one?" "No," Salith replied. "Wanting was removed early." Elias turned back to the box. "Then we'll start there." He moved closer, placing a small stool beside the container so he could sit at eye level with its smooth surface. "I need you to understand something," he said. "I can't promise everything will be easy. The Emperor will not like what I'm doing. My own people are nervous too, but I will not open that box unless it leads to your safety, not your ownership." The hum inside the container shifted slightly. "That condition," Salith said, "does not exist in my training." "Then today it does," Elias replied. A soft sound came from inside, not words, a breath. For the first time in her life, Salith was not being rushed forward by orders. The silence stretched again, but this time it did not feel empty. It felt heavy, full of something unnamed. Hours later, a warning light blinked on Elias' wrist display. "Incoming message, Imperial frequency." He straightened, his expression neutral, and activated the channel. "Human Elias Ward," the alien Emperor's voice echoed, calm and controlled. "Our sensors show the gift remains unopened." "That is correct," Elias said. "There is a window of appropriateness," the Emperor replied. "Delay suggests hesitation. Hesitation suggests doubt." "I am being careful," Elias said. "Human custom values understanding before action." A pause, long, dangerous. "The concubine's purpose is service," the Emperor said. "Understanding is unnecessary." "On Earth," Elias replied, "service without consent is a crime." The word crime rippled through the channel like a dropped object in water. "You accepted the gift," the Emperor said. "I accepted responsibility," Elias answered, "not ownership." The channel closed without warning. Elias exhaled slowly. He knew that silence from the Emperor was never a good sign. Inside the box, Salith spoke. "You have angered him." "Yes," Elias said honestly, "I probably have. That increases my risk." "It does," he admitted, "but doing nothing would increase it too." She processed this in silence. Risk was something she understood, choice was not. Later, Human Command sent another message. This one was longer, layered with concern. "You are pushing the boundary of the treaty. Proceed carefully. Extraction may not be possible." Elias acknowledged the message but did not reply further. He returned his focus to the box. "Salith," he said, "if I open the box and remove the restraints, will the obedience seal activate automatically?" "Yes," she replied, "unless countermanded by authorized command codes." "And those codes belong to the Empire?" "Yes," Elias rubbed his temples. "Then we need another option." What option? She asked. One where the box opens, Elias said, but the meaning of that opening changes. Salith did not answer right away. I was taught, she said finally, that meaning is defined by power. Humans disagree, Elias said. We think meaning is defined by choice. He stood and walked to the console, pulling up scans of the container. He was not a scientist, but he knew enough to see the complexity of the device. The obedience seal was integrated deeply, tied to Salith's neural patterns. This might hurt, he murmured, more to himself than to her. I am conditioned to endure, Salith replied. That's not the same as consent, Elias said firmly. He stopped himself, pushed the console away. He was not ready. Instead, he did something simple. He spoke. He told her about Earth, about oceans and storms, about cities where millions lived without knowing each other's names, about children who argued with their parents and elders who complained about noise. Salith listened. She asked questions, hesitant at first, then more frequent. Your leaders, she asked, do they own you? No, Elias said. They work for us, sometimes badly. That made her pause. Your children, she asked, are they trained for gifting? No, he said. They're trained to ask why. The idea unsettled her more than any threat ever had. Time passed differently after that. The box was still sealed, but something inside it was loosening. Not physically, something deeper. Then the station trembled. Alarms flickered briefly, then settled. Elias stood instantly, scanning the room. A security alert flashed on his display. Imperial agents authorized for inspection. They are coming, Salith said quietly. To ensure compliance. Elias felt a calm settle over him, sharp and clear. Then we need to act. He moved to the box, hands steady. Salith, I need your help now. I am listening, she said. When the box opens, he said, I want you to do nothing, no kneeling, no vows. No obedience phrases. That will be interpreted as failure, she warned. Yes, Elias said, by them, not by me. Another tremor shook the room. Footsteps echoed beyond the door. Elias placed his palm on the release panel. The system hesitated, scanning him, rejecting his biology. Override, Elias said aloud, using his authority code as a human envoy under treaty observation. The box hummed louder. Locks disengaged one by one. Salith, Elias said softly, you are not a gift to me. You are a person. Whatever happens next, remember that. The lid began to rise. Light spilled into the container for the first time in Salith's life. She blinked against it, her vision adjusting slowly. She saw the room, the human standing there, not towering, not demanding. Just waiting, her body trembled, the obedience seal reacting, searching for commands that did not come. Imperial boots struck the floor outside. The box was open, and Salith did nothing. She did not kneel, she did not speak the vow. She simply looked at Elia's ward, free air filling her lungs, and felt something inside her break and reform at the same time. Choice was terrifying, and it was real. Imperial agents entered the room in perfect formation. Their armor was polished black, marked with the Emperor's sigil, and their weapons remained lowered but ready. They stopped just inside the doorway, eyes moving immediately to the open box. Salith stood inside it, unrestrained, bathed in the soft white light of the room. She was not kneeling, the lead agent stiffened. The subject has not assumed the correct posture. Elia's ward stepped forward, placing himself clearly between Salith and the agents. His hands were visible, empty, calm. She is not a subject, Elias said. She is a guest under human protection. The agent's eyes flicked to him, then back to Salith. Data streamed across their visor displays. Her obedience seal was active, but its feedback loops showed instability. This condition is unacceptable, the lead agent replied. The concubine must complete the activation ritual immediately. Salith's body trembled. The conditioning pressed down on her mind, urging her to kneel, to speak the words she had practiced thousands of times. Her muscles tightened, waiting for permission that never came. Elias spoke quietly. Salith, you don't have to do anything. The obedience seal reacted sharply to those words. Pain flickered behind her eyes, but it was brief, confused. The system had been designed to respond to commands, not refusals. I am standing, Salith said slowly, testing the sentence as if it were fragile. I have not been corrected. The agents took a step forward. Elias did not move aside. By imperial law, the lead agent said, you are obstructing the completion of a sovereign gift. By human law, Elias replied, you are attempting to enforce ownership of a sentient being. Silence fell, thick and dangerous. One of the agents raised a hand, signaling a pause. We are authorized to observe and report, not to engage in violence, for now. For now, Elias echoed. The agents backed away a single step, their presence heavy, watching. Salith took her first step out of the box. It was small, careful, as if the floor itself might reject her. Nothing happened, no shock, no punishment. Just solid ground beneath her feet. Her breathing grew uneven. "I am outside," she said. "The training did not include this." Elias nodded. "That's okay, you're learning something new." The agents recorded everything. Salith's obedience seal pulsed again, sending another wave of discomfort through her. She gasped softly, one hand rising to her temple. Elias noticed immediately. "What's happening?" "It is searching," Salith said. "For a command structure, it cannot find one." "That sounds painful." "Yes," she admitted, "but also quieter." The lead agent tilted his head. "The subject's conditioning is degrading." "Good," Elias said before he could stop himself. The agent's gaze sharpened. "That degradation represents a loss of imperial property." Elias met the agent's eyes. "To us, it represents a life recovering." A signal chimed softly on Elias' wrist display. "Incoming transmission. Imperial priority." The Emperor's image formed in the air between them, towering even as a projection. "Human Elias Ward," the Emperor said. "Explain this deviation." Elias took a breath. "Your gift arrived alive, thinking, afraid, I cannot accept a peace built on ownership." The Emperor's gaze shifted to Salith. "You are failing in your purpose." Salith flinched. Her instinct screamed to kneel, to apologize, to disappear. Elias spoke quickly. "She is choosing." The Emperor's mandibles flexed. "Choice is not granted, it is controlled." "That," Elias said, "is where we differ." The Emperor was silent for a long moment. The agents remained motionless, statues awaiting orders. "Very well," the Emperor said at last. "Let us observe how long this illusion of freedom survives." The transmission ended. The agents withdrew, their boots echoing as the door sealed behind them. Only then did Salith's strength fail her. She swayed, and Elias caught her before she fell. His grip was firm but gentle, supporting her weight without pulling her closer than necessary. "I am sorry," she said automatically. "I did not mean to be unstable." "You don't need to apologize," Elias said. He guided her to a chair. "Your body is catching up to what your mind is doing." She sat, hands folded tightly in her lap, unsure what to do with them. Elias knelt in front of her again, keeping his movements slow. "I need to ask you something important," she nodded. "If we continue like this," he said, "the Empire may try to take you back by force. They may punish you. They may punish me. Are you willing to keep going anyway?" Salith looked down at her hands. For the first time, she noticed they were shaking. "I do not know how to be willing," she said honestly. "I only know how to obey." "That's okay," Elias said. "Willing can start as simple as this. Do you want to stay here right now?" She thought about the box, the darkness, the certainty. Then she thought about the light, the room, the silence that did not demand. "Yes," she said. "I want to stay." "That's enough," Elias said softly. Medical staff arrived soon after, human doctors moving carefully, respectfully. They scanned Salith's neural patterns, their expressions tightening as they saw the complexity of the obedience seal. "This thing is deep," one doctor murmured. "It's not just control, it's identity shaping." "Can you remove it?" Elias asked. "Not safely," the doctor replied. "Not quickly," Salith listened, absorbing every word. "What will happen to me?" she asked. The doctor hesitated. Elias answered instead. "You'll be protected, you'll be heard, and you'll help decide what comes next." The word decide lingered in the air. As hours passed, reports came in from across the station. Whispers, rumors. The human envoy had refused an imperial gift. The concubine had walked free. The box had been opened and nothing had gone as planned. Across imperial space, other concubines felt something strange ripple through their conditioning systems. Not pain, not commands, confusion. The Empire's systems were precise, but they were not built for uncertainty. Salith rested on a medical bed, sensors gently attached to her temples. Elias sat nearby, reviewing incoming messages. "You are tired," Salith observed. "Yes," Elias admitted, "but that's normal for humans." "Does being human always involve defiance?" she asked. Elias smiled faintly. "More often than we'd like." She considered that. "I was taught that defiance leads to suffering," she said. "Sometimes it does," Elias replied, "but sometimes it leads to change." The station lights shifted as the artificial day cycle returned. Outside, ships moved through docking lanes, unaware of the quiet rebellion unfolding within one room. Salith closed her eyes briefly, then opened them again. I am afraid, she said. Elias nodded. That makes sense. But, she continued slowly, I am afraid of going back more. That admission felt heavier than any vow she had ever spoken. Elias stood and placed a communicator on the table beside her. That means you're choosing something, even if it's small. She looked at the device. What is it? A way to speak, to anyone, when you're ready. She did not touch it yet. Later, as night fell again, an alert sounded quietly. Human command, new information. Imperial concubines across 3 systems have ceased responding to activation rituals. Compliance failures increasing. Elias stared at the message. It had begun. Salith sensed the shift in him. What is happening? Elias met her eyes. Others like you are hesitating. Because of me? She asked. Because of choice, he said. Because once one person stands, others start to wonder if they can too. Salith felt something warm spread through her chest. Not pride, not obedience. Hope. Far away, the alien emperor watched the reports scroll across his throne room displays. His perfect system was trembling not from attack but from doubt. All because a human had opened a box and refused to own what was inside. And because someone who had been trained to kneel had chosen, for the first time, to remain standing. The station did not sleep, but it grew tense. Security patrols doubled. Imperial observers lingered longer in corridors. Human officers spoke in low voices, careful about what they said and where they said it. Something fragile had been disturbed, and everyone could feel it. Salith felt it most of all. She sat by the viewport in the human quarters, watching distant stars slide past. For most of her life, stars had been lessons on a screen, diagrams to memorize, not real lights hanging in endless dark. Now they were right there, silent and vast, asking nothing of her. Behind her, Elias Ward stood at a console, reviewing data feeds. His face was calm, but the lines around his eyes were deeper than before. The reports are spreading, he said quietly, across the Empire. Others like me. You didn't cause it, you revealed it. There was no ceremony this time, no calm welcome. You are contaminating Imperial order, the Emperor said. Withdraw your interference immediately. She malfunctioned. Pain flashed behind Salith's eyes. Her body leaned forward without her permission. Elias spoke firmly. Stop. Because you don't get to command her anymore. Instead, she focused on Elias' voice, calm and steady. I am here, she said slowly, carefully. I am not broken. His hands were clenched at his sides. That was brave, he said to Salith. I was terrified, she admitted. Those things can happen at the same time, Elias said. Moments later, alarms echoed softly through the station, not emergency alarms, diplomatic alerts. Imperial ships were maneuvering closer. They are applying pressure, Elias said, trying to scare us into compliance. Over me. Elias closed the channel and leaned against the wall. For a moment, he allowed himself to feel tired. Salith watched him. You could give me back, she said quietly. Elias looked up sharply. No. It would just be hidden again. They're losing control. Concubines are refusing rituals, some are asking questions, others are just stopping. The Emperor has authorized retrieval teams. Not here, across his territory. He wants to reassert control fast. Elias looked at Salith. She noticed the shift immediately. What are you thinking? If you spoke to them, Elias continued, not as a command, but as a person who survived, it might help them resist. Speaking meant being seen. Being seen had always meant pain, but she thought of the box, of standing, of the moment she had said, I exist. Human technicians worked in silence, their faces focused. Salith stood in front of a simple camera, no restraints, no symbols, just her. Elias stood nearby, out of frame, but close enough that she could feel his presence. When you are ready, he said. She nodded. The broadcast went live. Across Imperial space, screens flickered, concubine chambers, training halls, transit boxes, places designed to isolate. Salith's image appeared. She took a breath. My name is Salith, she said. Her voice shook at first, then steadied. I was trained to serve. I was told I was a gift. I did not disappear. Choosing to breathe before you kneel is possible. Imperial countermeasures slammed into the signal. The screen went dark. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then reports began flooding in. More failures, more pauses, entire facilities going silent as concubines refused to respond. The Empire reacted the only way it knew how. Force Imperial agents raided holding centers. Some concubines were dragged away. Others resisted, not with weapons, but with refusal, sitting, standing, saying nothing. The images spread anyway, leaked by frightened officials and sympathetic workers. The galaxy watched. The alien emperor convened an emergency council. His advisors spoke over one another, voices sharp with fear. This is spreading too fast. The human is the source, he said, and the one he shelters. Return Salith immediately. In exchange, the Empire will suspend enforcement actions and preserve the treaty. Salith read the message over Elia's shoulder. She felt the familiar pull of sacrifice. Give yourself up. End the pain. This was what she had been trained for. Elias turned to her. You don't have to answer this. You are not authorized. Outside the station, Imperial ships held position. Inside, humans prepared defenses but did not strike. Days passed. The Empire's systems continued to fail, not all at once, not cleanly, but steadily. Concubines stopped responding. Officials hesitated before giving orders. The idea had escaped the box. One night as the station lights dimmed again, Salith sat beside Elias. Do you regret it? She asked. He thought for a moment. No. It will be over whether people can be owned. Humanity had not fired a single shot, and yet the balance of power was shifting. The standoff lasted longer than anyone expected. Imperial ships remained outside the station, perfectly aligned, silent, and unmoving. Human defense vessels mirrored them at a careful distance. No weapons fired, no warnings issued. The galaxy waited, holding its breath. Inside the station, Salith woke from a light, restless sleep. Dreams still came to her, but they were changing. They no longer ended with commands shouted in empty halls. Now they ended with silence, wide and open. She rose and stood by the viewport again. Stars drifted slowly, indifferent to empires. Elias Ward joined her, holding 2 cups of warm human tea. He handed one to her. She had learned to like the taste, even though she still did not understand why humans drank something bitter to feel calm. They're meeting, Elias said quietly. Who? Salith asked. The Emperor, the High Council, every major power watching this situation. Salith nodded. To decide what to do with us. With an idea, Elias corrected gently. She gave a small, uncertain smile. Smiling was still new. News feeds began to scroll across the room's display. Across Imperial territory, enforcement actions were failing. Entire concubine facilities had gone quiet, not destroyed, just stopped. Some concubines refused to move, some asked questions, some simply stood and waited. The obedience systems were not built for this kind of resistance. They required action to respond to. Refusal confused them. Humanity did not interfere directly. No rescues, no attacks. Only broadcasts of law sent again and again into the galaxy. No sentient being may be owned. Consent is required. Choice is not a malfunction. Salith watched one feed showing an Imperial officer standing in front of a concubine who refused to kneel. The officer's voice shook as he repeated the command. Nothing happened. The officer lowered his weapon. I never thought I would see this, Salith whispered. Elias nodded. Neither did they. A priority alert flashed. The Emperor was requesting a final address. Public galaxy-wide. Elias looked at Salith. This is it. Her hands trembled. Will he threaten war? Probably, Elias said. But threats only work if people believe in them. They moved to the central chamber. Cameras activated. Signals aligned. Across the stars, screens flickered on. The alien emperor appeared, standing taller than ever, surrounded by symbols of authority. His voice carried power, practiced and absolute. Citizens of the Empire, he began, order has been challenged, stability threatened, a dangerous precedent introduced. He paused. The human species shelters an anomaly, he continued. A being who rejects her purpose and spreads disruption. Salith stood beside Elias, visible but silent. For generations, the Emperor said, we have maintained peace through structure, through assigned roles, through control. His eyes hardened. And now chaos grows. He raised a claw. This ends today. The Empire will not bend. Murmurs rippled across unseen worlds. Then Elias stepped forward. He had not planned to speak, but he knew silence now would be surrender. With respect, Elias said calmly, your empire is already bending. Gasps echoed. The Emperor turned toward him. You dare. I dare to speak the truth, Elias continued. You did not lose control because of violence. You lost it because people were shown a choice. He gestured gently toward Salith. You tried to use her as a symbol. Elias said. But symbols change when someone refuses to play their role. The Emperor's voice grew sharp. You would risk war for one life? Elias shook his head. No, we risked discomfort for many lives. Silence fell again, then something unexpected happened. A new signal cut into the broadcast. Another concubine appeared on screen, then another, different species, different worlds, all standing, no vows, no kneeling. The Emperor froze. Salith stepped forward. She had not been asked to speak. But she knew now when something mattered. My Emperor, she said, her voice steady despite her fear, you taught us that order was everything. She looked directly into the camera, but order that breaks when questioned is not strong, it is fragile. The Emperor's eyes burned. You were nothing without us, Salith nodded slowly. That is what I was taught. She took a breath. I was wrong. The words echoed across the galaxy. I am not nothing, she continued, and neither are they. The Emperor raised his hand to cut the transmission. Before he could, one of his advisors leaned close and whispered urgently. The Emperor's expression changed. Systems were failing faster now, not just concubines, administrators, officers. Even some commanders were refusing orders they no longer believed in, not rebellion. Reconsideration, the Emperor straightened. For the first time, he said slowly, the Empire faces a question. He looked out at the countless screens showing faces watching him. Can control survive without belief? No one answered. The Emperor lowered his hand. Withdraw the demand, he said quietly. Shock rippled through the council. The concubine, an advisor began, is no longer imperial property, the Emperor said. Salith felt her knees weaken. Elias reached out instinctively, steadying her without pulling her closer. The Emperor continued, his voice heavy. The practice of gifting sentient beings is suspended, effective immediately. The words landed like a meteor. Across imperial space, cries echoed, some of relief, some of anger, some of fear. This decision preserves peace, the Emperor said, and begins reform. The transmission ended. For a long moment, no one in the chamber moved. Then the station filled with sound, messages, cheers, quiet sobs, laughter from people who did not know how else to react. Salith covered her mouth with trembling fingers. It's over, she whispered. Elias shook his head gently. No, it's beginning. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy changed in small, careful steps. Imperial law was rewritten, not all at once, not without resistance. But the word concubine disappeared from official language. Former concubines were released, given support, given names again. Some chose to return home, some stayed, some did not know where home was anymore. Salith stayed with humanity, not as a symbol, not as a leader. As a person, she learned how to choose small things first, what to eat, when to sleep, where to walk. Some days were harder than others. Conditioning does not vanish overnight. Elias remained at her side, not as an owner, not as a savior, but as someone who listened. One day, as they walked through a garden on a human station, Salith stopped. I think I understand now, she said. Understand what? Elias asked. Why you did not open the box right away, she replied. He waited. You knew that opening it without changing its meaning would only continue the lie, she said. Elias smiled. Yes. She looked up at the artificial sky, bright and wide. The box was never my prison, she said softly. The belief was. History would later name the event. They would call it the unboxing, not because a container was opened, but because an empire's truth was. Humanity would be remembered not for strength or weapons, but for a quieter kind of power. The power to look at a gift, hear a voice whisper, unbox me,